In every apartment building there's at least one person who seems to belong more to the walls than to the city outside. In ours, it was Mr. Sato from 301. If you'd asked anyone in Building 3 to describe him, they would have said the same things. Oh, he's so kind. Always helps with the trash. Carries the old lady's groceries. Like a caretaker, even though he's just a tenant. No one could remember when he'd moved in. He seemed to have always been there, like the mailboxes or the stairwell. I met him on my second day. I'd just moved to Tokyo for my first real job, fresh graduate, cheap suit, cheaper apartment. Building 3 was about as ordinary as you could get, 4 floors, no elevator, thin walls, a smell of fried onions that never completely left the hallway. I was struggling up the stairs with a cardboard box full of kitchen stuff when a voice said, "Careful on that third step, it wobbles." A hand caught the bottom of the box before it tipped. He was standing one step below me, slightly bent to balance the weight. Late 40s, maybe early 50s. Short hair going gray at the temples. Irregular features that somehow came out gentle once you took them all together. He smiled, a little embarrassed. "Sorry," he said. "Didn't mean to startle you." "It's okay," I said, trying to regain control of the box. "Thank you. I'm new here." "Yes, 402, right," he said. I saw the paper on the board. "Welcome. I'm Sato. 301. I blinked. "You remember apartment numbers from the move-out notice?" I asked. He laughed. "Ah, I help the landlord with little things," he said, lifting the box again. "Changing light bulbs in the hall, clearing snow in winter. I see the names when they go up. It's a bad habit. I like to know who my neighbors are." It should have been creepy. It wasn't. Not then. He carried my box all the way to 402, placed it just inside the door, and bowed slightly. "If you need anything, feel free to knock," he said. "People in Tokyo are often busy and shy. But this building is small. We can at least say hello." Over the next few weeks, I saw him everywhere. In the morning, sweeping leaves away from the front step. In the evening, helping old Mrs. Tanaka from 102 up the stairs, one hand under her elbow, the other carrying her shopping bag. On weekends, handing a toolbox to a younger couple from 203, showing them how to fix a squeaky door. He never pushed. If you worried about something, water pressure, noise, some form you didn't understand, he always seemed to appear at just the right distance. Not right next to you. At the end of the corridor. In the mail area. "Everything okay?" he'd ask, voice soft, as if not wanting to embarrass you by making too much eye contact. If you said yes, he nodded and moved on. If you hesitated even half a second, he would give that small, lopsided smile. "Well," he'd say, "if you ever want a second opinion, I've been here a long time." People came to rely on him without noticing. Including me. My job was in customer support for a mid-sized tech company. Picture this, a headset, a computer, lines of angry text from people I would never meet. My day was 8 hours of apologizing for bugs I hadn't created and delays I couldn't fix. At first, I tried to be cheerful. I sent smiley faces in chat. I stayed late. I volunteered for overtime because overtime meant money and money meant I could eventually move out of a place where I could hear my downstairs neighbor sneeze. After 2 months, the constant hum of air conditioning and complaints wore into me like water on stone. I stopped listening to music on the train. I stopped answering friends' messages with anything longer than LOL. I started staying in my room with the lights low, scrolling through other people's lives until my hands ached. One Tuesday night, while I was sitting on the stairs outside the building smoking a cigarette I had told myself would be the last, Sato sat down a few steps away. "Long day?" he asked. I flushed, embarrassed to be seen like that. "Yeah," I said. "Sorry about the smoke." "I'll move." "It's fine," he said. "The wind's on my side." We sat in silence for a moment. "You work in customer something, right?" he asked. "I see your schedule on the board." I raised an eyebrow. He smiled. The landlord sends me photos sometimes, he said. Which days they're checking the gas, when deliveries come, which apartments will be home. Less trouble for him to come in person. Don't worry, I don't know your income, he added, as if that mattered. It's just chats, I said. People shouting at me through email. I'm not important enough to talk to anyone on the phone. Do you like it? He asked. I thought about lying. It's work, I said. He nodded. That's honest, he said. Sometimes that's all a job is. Something you survive long enough to get to the next one. He stretched his legs. When I was younger I worked at a call center too, he added. Debt collection. People don't like you very much in that job. Yeah? I said. How did you stand it? I didn't, in the end, he said. But it taught me something useful. People want an ear more than they want a solution. If they think someone is truly listening, they calm down. He tilted his head. Who listens to you? He asked. The question was so blunt it bypassed my defenses. I shrugged. No one needs to, I said, trying to make it a joke. My job isn't important enough to talk about. That's not what I asked, he said gently. I took a drag. The cigarette tasted like ash and cheap paper. I don't know, I admitted. My parents live in another prefecture. My friends are busy. I don't want to bother them with today. Someone said I ruined their life because their shopping cart bugged out. It sounds stupid. It doesn't sound stupid, he said. It sounds like you're carrying a lot of small stones alone. 1 stone is fine. 2, 3, 10, you can pretend it's nothing. After a while, you wonder why your back hurts. There was no accusation in his tone. Just observation. If you ever want to talk about work, he added, standing. I'm a good listener. Old habit. He paused. And I don't charge per hour, he said, smiling to show he was joking. He went inside, leaving me with the cigarette and a strange feeling in my chest. Being seen. Not as 402, not as one more tenant, but as someone with a private weight. It was flattering. It was disarming. It was the beginning. The first time I went to his apartment was about a week later. The building's hot water went off suddenly on a Sunday evening. A pipe issue, the landlord texted. No showers until morning. I was standing in the corridor, hair full of shampoo foam from a hastily aborted shower, when Sato's door opened. He took in my state in one glance. You saw the message late, he said. Sorry. The landlord really should give more notice. He hesitated. If you don't mind sharing hot water with an old unit, he said, my boiler still has some. I switched off my shower when I saw the message, but it takes a while to cool. He saw the conflict on my face. His smile dropped a few degrees, became more formal. Or not, he said. I'm sorry. That was forward. I'm just used to helping the tenants downstairs when they need. No, it's okay, I said quickly. I mean, if you're sure it's not trouble. I really need to get this out of my hair. Of course, he said. I'll leave the bathroom door open. You can lock it from inside. I'll stay in the kitchen, so you don't feel watched. He said it so matter-of-factly that some of the awkwardness evaporated. Inside, his place was neat, almost to the point of sterility. No clutter. No plastic bags overflowing with receipts. No dirty dishes in the sink. Books line one wall. Not novels. Manuals. Titles like Conflict Communication, Counseling Basics, Practical Psychology for Workplaces. Some had sticky notes marking pages. On a low table were a box of tissues and a glass jar of wrapped candies, like at a reception desk. You can leave your towel there, he said, pointing to a hook outside the bathroom. There's shampoo if you need more. It's the cheap brand, sorry. I showered as quickly as I could, trying not to drip on his immaculate floor. When I came out, hair damp, he was sitting at the table with 2 cups of tea. I didn't know how you like it, he said. So no sugar, just a little milk. I should have left. I'd already taken enough. No, thanks, I said. I'll get out of your way. He looked almost offended. Oh, I wasn't expecting anything, he said. I just thought, after that shock, a warm drink would feel human. I paused. He wasn't wrong. I sat. This is really kind, I said. You don't have to take care of everyone, you know. It's not everyone, he said. Only the ones who look like they need it. His gaze was steady, not invasive. And it's not kindness, he added. It's selfish. It makes me feel useful. We talked. About nothing important, train delays, convenience store coffee, the strange noises from 203's late-night gaming sessions. But slowly the topic slid toward work. He asked questions not like a neighbor making small talk, but like someone accustomed to drawing words out of tired people. What's the most unfair thing a customer said today? If you could change one rule at your company, what would it be? Who notices when you do well? I found myself answering without thinking. My manager only talked about metrics. The helpful canned responses we had to paste felt more insulting than anything I could have written myself. There was no space for personality. Do you ever lose your temper? He asked. Sometimes, I said. In my head. Never in the chat. I just smile with my fingers. He gave a small, pleased nod. Good, he said. People like you last longer in these roles. You're safe for the company. They don't have to worry about you exploding. He set his cup down. But safety goes both ways, he added. If you're always safe for everyone else, who is dangerous for you? In a good way, I mean. Who challenges you, tells you no when you need it? I laughed. I don't know if I need more no in my life, I said. He looked at the steam rising from his tea. You will, he said quietly. Everyone does. It became a habit. Once or twice a week, after a bad day, I'd knock on 301. He never seemed surprised. The door opened within seconds, as if he'd been standing just on the other side. He always had tea ready. Sometimes snacks. He never made a move that could be read as invasive. He didn't sit too close. He didn't touch me. He didn't comment on my clothes or my appearance. All his attention went to my words. I shouted at a client today, I confessed once. Not in the chat. I turned my mic off and just screamed at my screen. I felt stupid. That's not stupid, he said. That's the body protesting. What did the anger feel like? Hot, I said. Pointless. Like throwing water at a wall. He nodded. Did it make you feel better? He asked. No, I said. Well, he said. Now you know that yelling into the void doesn't help you. That's valuable. Next time your body wants to shout, maybe you can do something different. Like what? I said. He smiled. Like tell someone who actually hears you, he said. So the energy goes somewhere. His eyes held mine. Like me, he added, gently. I looked away, suddenly shy. I don't want to bother you with my stupid stuff, I said. He shook his head. Sharing is never a bother if both people agree to it, he said. But you should be careful who you choose. Not everyone knows how to listen without keeping. Keeping? I echoed. Some people use your words against you later, he said. Or keep you small by reminding you of your weak moments. A good listener doesn't do that. Have you known people like that? I asked. His expression flickered. Many, he said. Some in this building. I frowned. Here? He shrugged. Not everyone here is friendly, he said. Most are harmless. A few are hungry. For attention, for drama, for something to control. I thought of the loud couple in 203, the drunk man from 105 who sometimes left trash outside his door. Like who? I asked, half joking, half curious. He gave me a small, apologetic smile. "It's not my place to point fingers," he said. "That would be gossip. And gossip is just another way of keeping people small. You should notice for yourself. Pay attention to who makes you feel lighter after you talk, and who makes you feel like the room got smaller." He tapped the side of his head lightly. "Keep that list in here," he said. "Not on paper. Papers can be misread." I left his place that night feeling oddly seen and oddly safe. He hadn't asked for anything. Not a favor. Not a secret in exchange. He just listened. And I told myself that was all it was. The first time I felt something was wrong was because of the cat. Mrs. Tanaka from 102 had a small, elderly cat named Momo. Momo was the true queen of Building 3. Everyone knew her waddling shape and her cracked little meow. One evening, as I came home, I saw Momo sitting at the bottom of the stairs, fur puffed, staring hard at the door of 301. "Hey, Momo," I said, reaching out a hand. She didn't move. Didn't blink. Her tail flicked once, slowly, in that way cats have when they're concentrating on something only they can see. The door of 301 was closed. Light glowed faintly under the frame. "Smelled fish, huh?" I said, half to Momo, half to myself. She hissed. Not at me. At the door. The sound was small but sharp. Her back arched. She backed away, step by step, never taking her eyes off the wood. When she reached my side, she pressed against my leg once, hard, then trotted downstairs as fast as her old joints allowed. The next night, in Sato's apartment, I mentioned it as a joke. "I think Momo doesn't like you," I said. "She was staring at your place like you'd offended her ancestors." He laughed. "I was boiling cabbage," he said. "She hates the smell. She used to love me when I gave her dried bonito. Now the vet says no more treats. She thinks I betrayed her." He smiled wistfully. "Animals are honest that way," he said. "They like you or they don't. No middle." It made sense. It explained it. Almost. But sometimes, after that, when I stood near his door, I'm sure it felt colder than the rest of the hallway. As if whoever had designed the building had skipped insulation in that section. I told myself it was just the angle of the wind. Or my imagination. 3 months after I moved in, the incident with the girl from 205 happened. She was a part-time florist, about my age. We'd exchanged maybe 10 words in total. Hello, nice weather, sorry about the noise. I didn't even know her full name. Then one evening, I came home to flashing blue lights and a knot of neighbors in front of the building, buzzing with shock and gossip. "What happened?" I asked the guy from 403. He exhaled smoke. "The girl in 205 ended up in the hospital," he said. "Ambulance came this afternoon. She cut herself." "Cut herself?" I repeated, dumb. "She tried to kill herself," he said bluntly. "Wrist. Blood everywhere, they say. Landlord's pissed about the floor." The callousness made me flinch. "Is she okay?" I asked. He shrugged. "Alive, I guess. For now," he said. "I heard she was depressed for a while. Quiet type. Who knows what goes on in people's heads?" I thought of my own nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling. "I didn't even know her name," I said. He tapped his ash into a tray. "Me neither," he said. "But Sato probably does. That guy knows everything." I looked over. Sato was standing near the entrance, talking quietly to the landlord. His face was serious, brows drawn. He caught my eye and nodded once, as if to say, "I'll tell you later." He did. Back in his apartment, over tea, he said. "She'll live. For now. They stitched her. But those kinds of wounds." He made a vague gesture around his heart. "Did you know?" I blurted. "That she was like that?" He looked down. "She talked to me sometimes," he said. About work. About her ex. About feeling unnecessary. He sighed. I did what I could, he said. Sometimes it's not enough. Guilt flared in me. I never talked to her, I said. Maybe if. He shook his head sharply. Don't, he said. That way lies arrogance. You're not that powerful. None of us are. People choose their paths. We can walk beside them for a while, but we can't wear their feet for them. He softened. You can do one thing, he added. Learn. So if someone else says something similar, you don't look away. I swallowed. What did she say? I asked, quietly. Before. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. Things like I'm tired and it would be easier if I just disappeared, he said. Things a lot of people say when they're hurting. He met my gaze. Have you ever said that? He asked. Everyone has, I said. Right? Exactly, he said. So think how many people you know are walking around with those sentences in their mouths, waiting for someone to notice which ones are jokes and which ones aren't. I thought of my own late-night thoughts. Of the day I'd stared at the edge of the station platform too long. I looked at him. Have I ever sounded like that? I asked. He smiled, small and sad. Not yet, he said. You still complain like someone who believes tomorrow will be different. He leaned forward. If that changes, he said, I want you to tell me first. There was warmth in the words. And something else. Something like possession. I told myself I was imagining it. 2 weeks later, 205 moved out. Not in person. Her parents came, pale and tight-mouthed, to box up her belongings. No one saw her. The ambulance had been enough. The door stayed closed for a month, then a new name appeared on the board outside, Matsuda. I never saw them. I did, however, see Sato more. He started knocking on my door sometimes, instead of waiting for me to come to his. With excuses at first. There's a notice from the landlord about water pressure. I baked too many sweet potatoes. Would you like some? Do you have a screwdriver? Mine is temporarily missing. I always invited him in. It felt rude not to. It also felt good. Safe. He knew when I'd had a bad day before I said a word. He could tell from the way I turned the doorknob, from the slump of my shoulders. Rough shift, he'd say. Yeah. Want to talk or want to sit in silence, he'd ask. The first time someone offered that choice in my life, I almost cried. We never sat in silence for long. He was too skilled at asking the right questions. Who made you feel small today? When did you bite your tongue and wish you hadn't? What's one thing you wish someone would notice without you telling them? He never offered advice unless I asked. He never said you should. Only. Some people in that position have found it helpful to. I wonder what would happen if. How would it feel if you tried? He wasn't just a good listener. He was an excellent counselor. I asked him once, directly. Did you study psychology? I said. You're better at this than the school counselors were. He laughed softly. I took some courses, he said. Read some books. Practiced on call center scripts. There's not much difference between calming a stranger screaming about money and sitting with a neighbor who's tired of being a person. You could do it professionally, I said. He looked away. I used to, he said. In a way. He didn't elaborate. I didn't push. The first time I saw the notebook, I wasn't supposed to. He had gone to the bathroom, leaving his phone on the table. I wasn't trying to snoop. My eyes fell on a black notebook half hidden under a magazine. It was open just enough to see the edge of handwriting. Thick, deliberate strokes. Not the messy scrawl of grocery lists. Lines and bullet points. Before I could pull my gaze away, I recognized my own name on the top of one page. Nishida Haru, 402. Below it, indented. Age, 23. Job, customer support, mid-level. Family, parents in Yamagata, no siblings. Baseline mood, anxious, self-blaming, eager to please. Coping mechanisms, humor, withdrawal, overwork. Triggers, unfair criticism, being ignored, feeling replaceable. The list continued. Under a heading that said hooks, it read, wants to feel useful and seen. Responds well to quiet attention. Afraid of being a bother. Has no local support network. History of intrusive thoughts, but high compliance with rules. My chest tightened. Below that. Risk level, medium manageable with attention. Potential, strong, likely to rely deeply on consistent listener. The last line. Note, do not push too fast. Let him believe it's his idea to come over. My heart pounded in my ears. I flipped the page. Other names. Other apartments. 205, florist girl. Age, 22. Baseline mood, depressed, self-negating. Hooks, romantic failure, body image, family disappointment. Risk level, high, self-harm history. Potential, limited, resists advice, rejects offers of help. Under that, in smaller writing. Outcome, attempted exit. Survived. Moved out. Evaluation, overinvested time. Poor return. My stomach lurched. The bathroom door clicked. I snapped the notebook shut and shoved it back under the magazine, fingers shaking. He came back drying his hands. Sorry, he said. Old pipes. They scream if you turn the tap too fast. He sat, took a sip of tea, resumed our conversation as if nothing had happened. I answered in automatic noises. Right. Yeah. Inside, something was rearranging itself. All the moments of kindness, all the gentle questions, the offers of tea, the late-night listening. They were all still real. They also sat in a grid, in columns, under headings like hooks and risk level. I realized, with a cold clarity, that he hadn't just been listening. He'd been studying. Not just me. Everyone. Building 3 was his case file. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my name on that page. Risk level, medium manageable with attention. Potential, strong. I thought of his comment about animals. They like you or they don't. No middle. What did it mean that I was in his notebook under potential, strong? Potential for what? The next day, at work, I made mistakes. I copied the wrong response into a chat. I forgot to log a call. My manager frowned. Is everything okay, Nishida? He asked. Your metrics dropped today. Metrics. I almost laughed. Yes, I said. Just didn't sleep well. Take care of your health, he said. We need you at 100%. On the way home, the train felt too bright, everyone's faces too close. When I reached my building, I took the stairs 2 at a time, wanting the familiarity of my apartment. Sato was waiting on the landing between 2 and 3. He looked concerned. You're home late, he said. Everything okay? My throat tightened. Yes, I said. Just overtime. He tilted his head. You look tired, he said. Worse than usual. Was today hard? I squeezed the handrail. Just normal, I said. Sorry, I need to. Wait, he said. The word was soft. Not a command. A plea. He stepped aside to give me room, but didn't move up. I feel like you're pulling away, he said. Did I say something wrong last time? I swallowed. Could he tell? Of course he could. That was his skill. No, I lied. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. If you ever read something you weren't supposed to, he said quietly, you can ask me about it. It's worse to guess. The blood drained from my face. He knew. Of course he knew. He'd probably placed the notebook there on purpose. Or noticed the millimeter difference in how it sat. "I don't know what you mean," I said. It sounded false even to me. He sighed. "I won't force you," he said. "I'm not angry. Just, be careful what conclusions you jump to when you only see half a page." He stepped down. "For now, rest," he said. "We can talk when you're less tired." He walked back toward 301, shoulders relaxed, hands in his pockets. As if he had all the time in the world. I avoided him for 3 days. Went out at slightly different times. Listened at my door before stepping into the corridor. He didn't knock. He didn't text. Of course he didn't text. He didn't have my number. Or so I hoped. On the 4th night, there was a knock on my door at 11 p.m. 3 soft taps. Not the landlord. He pounded. My chest clenched. I ignored it. The knock came again, slightly louder. "Haru," his voice came, muffled. "I know you're there. I can hear the TV." I glanced at the black screen. I'd forgotten to turn the volume down after my last show. "Damn it. I just want to apologize," he said. "For making you uncomfortable. Then I'll go. I promise." Silence stretched. I could pretend to be asleep. Pretend not to care. Pretend I hadn't seen the words in his notebook. But I remembered something else he'd said, long before. If you leave someone alone with their conclusions, they'll usually land on the worst version, he'd told me once, about angry customers. Sometimes a small clarification prevents a much bigger explosion later. I opened the door. Not wide. Chain on. His face was tired. Not theatrically so. Just older than usual. "Hi," he said, with that small, lopsided smile. "Can we talk for 5 minutes? Here is fine. I won't come in." The chain felt symbolic and useless. Still, I kept it on. "About the notebook," he added. My fingers tightened around the doorknob. "What is it?" I asked. He rubbed his neck. "A bad habit," he said. "Leftover from work I shouldn't have been doing as long as I did." "Work?" I echoed. "I was a counselor for a while," he said. "Unofficially. Online, mostly. People would send me their problems. It got blurry between helping and collecting." He gave a humorless chuckle. "I used to keep notes," he said. "To remember who needed what. Somewhere along the way, the notes became more interesting than the people. I thought of the outcome, poor return line under 205's name. That's not just remembering," I said. "It's ranking." "Yes," he said simply. "I was very good at ranking. My old company appreciated that." "What company?" I asked. He shook his head. "That's not important," he said. "What matters is that I quit before I turned completely hollow." He met my eyes. "I moved here to get away from all that," he said. "But old habits follow. When I started listening to people in the building, the urge to write patterns down came back." "So you turned your neighbors into cases?" I said. "Like lab mice." His jaw tightened. "People are always turning each other into something," he said. "A role, a category, a joke, a warning story. At least I'm honest about it." He inhaled. "I'm not proud of that notebook," he said. "But it's also not as sinister as it looks from one page. I write the risk level partly to remind myself to be careful with people who are fragile. To keep track of who might actually need intervention, not just tea." "Intervention?" I repeated. "That girl in 205. His eyes shadowed. "I listened," he said. "More than anyone else did. I suggested she see a doctor. I gave her hotline numbers. She didn't use them. That's what I meant by poor return. Not that she was a bad investment. That my approach wasn't effective. I thought of the line overinvested time. Overinvested for who? I asked. For you? Yes, he said quietly. For me. I only have so much stamina. If I get drained by someone who never moves an inch, I have nothing left for the ones who could. He saw the disgust on my face. Do you choose who to listen to based on that? I asked. On who will give you a good return? His answer took too long. I try not to, he said. But I'm human. I like feeling effective. When someone talks, follows advice, gets better, it feels good. When someone thanks me for just listening, it feels like proof that I exist. He gave a thin smile. Is that so different from you wanting customers to give you 5 stars? He asked. Or wanting your manager to say good job? I flinched. It's different when it's about life and death, I said. When someone cuts herself and you write poor return. Yes, he admitted. That was ugly. You weren't meant to see that. It was for me. To remind myself not to fall into the same pattern again. Silence stretched. Why am I potential, strong? I asked. His shoulders dropped, as if he had been waiting for that. Because you're the exact type of person who gets stuck in the middle, he said. Not in crisis enough to trigger official help. Not fine enough to flourish. You hover. People like that often go unnoticed until they suddenly slip. He swallowed. I wrote potential to remind myself that small consistencies matter, he said. A cup of tea at the right time. Saying I see you when you feel like nothing. Those things can tilt a life. His voice softened. That's not sinister, he said. It's practical. Something in me wanted to believe him. It was easier. Safer. It allowed the warmth of our past evenings to stay unpoisoned. Another part of me replayed the words overinvested time and return. Are you helping us? I asked slowly, or collecting us? His eyes went flat. For a second. Just long enough that I saw how much of his normal expression was deliberate. Both, he said. I won't lie. It satisfies me to know how people work. To see patterns. To predict. The corners of his mouth tightened. But I haven't hurt anyone, he added. Not once. The hallway light flickered. Not directly, he corrected. The hairs on my arms rose. What does that mean? I asked. He stepped back slightly, as if giving me space to close the door if I wanted. A long time ago, someone I was helping jumped from a building, he said. They left a note. It thanked me. Said I was the only one who understood. He barked out a bitter laugh. Everyone else said it was my fault, he said. That I must have pushed them somehow. I know I didn't. But... He spread his hands. Intent doesn't erase impact, he said. No matter how clean you thought your mop was, someone can still slip on the water you leave behind. He bowed slightly. I'm sorry I scared you, he said. If you don't want to talk to me anymore, I'll respect that. I'll still carry Mrs. Tanaka's groceries. I'll still sweep the stairs. That's enough. He turned to go. Wait, I said. I didn't know why. Maybe because walking away from the only person who had truly listened to me in months felt like cutting off my own oxygen. Why are you telling me all this? I asked. He looked over his shoulder. Because you're the type who will dig anyway, he said. If I stay silent, your imagination will turn me into a monster. If I explain, maybe you'll see I'm just disappointing. He gave a small, tired smile. And because, he added, you're the only one in this building who might actually use the information. After that conversation, things didn't go back to normal. They didn't explode either. We talked less often. When we did, I noticed things I hadn't before. The way he steered conversations, gently, toward areas he wanted to explore. The way he asked about other neighbors, without ever directly requesting gossip. How is 403? Still coming home drunk? Did you hear any shouting from 203 last night? Has Mrs. Tanaka seemed more confused to you lately? He took in information like a sponge, nodding, filing. Like adding notes to an invisible map. I realized he knew who fought, who drank, who's behind on rent, who sleeps in, who works night shifts, who never leaves their room. He knew who cried in the stairwell and who pretended not to hear. Building 3 wasn't just where he lived. It was his ecosystem. We were his subjects. Sometimes I wondered, if I collapsed in my apartment, how long would it take for anyone to notice? My parents were far. My friends texted less. My company would send an email after 2 days of absence. Sato would notice the next morning, when my usual 7:40 footsteps didn't echo down the stairs. That thought was both comforting and chilling. Because if he was the only one who noticed, he was also the only one who could decide what to do about it. Call an ambulance. Or not. The last straw came in winter. The heater in my room broke. The landlord was slow to respond. For 3 nights, I slept in 2 hoodies and a hat, breath puffing in front of my face. On the 4th evening, there was a knock. Sato, holding a small electric heater. I heard the repairman hasn't come yet, he said. Take this. I have a spare. I hesitated. It's okay, I said. I'll manage. You'll get sick, he said. Then you'll miss work. Then you'll stress. A little warmth is not a big deal. He brushed past me gently, placing the heater by my desk, plugging it in. Warmth bloomed. Immediate. Seductive. Thank you, I said, genuinely grateful. He looked around my room for the first time. Until then, he'd never really stepped past the entrance. Bedsheets kicked into a corner. Cup noodles on the desk. Laundry half folded. He didn't comment. He just took it in. This looks familiar, he said. I live like this in my 20s. Messy? I said, embarrassed. Not messy, he said. Transitional. Like you don't believe you're staying long enough to make it yours. He turned back to me. Do you plan to stay? He asked. In this apartment? I said. I don't know. Depends on work. Money. In this job, he clarified. I exhaled. I don't see an exit, I admitted. It's not forever, but I don't know what comes next. He nodded, almost satisfied. Good, he said. Good? I repeated. If you knew too clearly, you might not be as open, he said. When people think their path is fixed, they stop listening to themselves. Uncertainty hurts, but it's honest. He sat on the floor, uninvited but not unwelcome. The heater hummed between us. How have your thoughts been lately? He asked. Any darker than usual? He meant, have you wanted to disappear more? I thought of the last week. Of standing on my balcony at 3 a.m. in the cold, looking down, not with intent, but with a sick curiosity. It comes and goes, I said. Like a radio station with static. Some nights, it's louder. He nodded. And when it's loudest, what do? He asked. I shrugged. Scroll, I said. Eat. Watch videos. Sometimes come to your place. His eyes warmed. I'm glad you see me as one of your coping tools, he said. But be careful not to rely on any one thing too much. If it goes away, you'll feel like someone pulled the floor out. He paused. Promise me something, he added. Alarm bells rang faintly in my head. What? I asked. If you ever decide to step off, he said quietly, don't do it silently. Tell someone. Not necessarily me. Anyone. I'm not going to kill myself, I snapped, more harshly than I intended. He held up his hands. I'm not saying you will, he said. I'm saying people like you sometimes surprise themselves. You don't scream for help. You just tip. He looked at the heater. Also, he said, tone light again, unplug that when you're not in the room. I'd hate for you to burn before you break. The joke landed wrong. Too close. For the first time, I wondered what he would do if I called him at 3 a.m. in real crisis. Would he calmly talk me down? Or would he quietly observe how far I'd fall? The thing about human monsters is that they never do the one unmistakable awful thing. They accumulate almosts. He never touched me inappropriately. He never locked me in. He never threatened me. He also never completely stopped arranging the pieces of my life in his mind. One night, I came home to find a note under my door. In his careful handwriting. If tonight feels heavy, don't drink alone. Doors open until 1. I hadn't told anyone that I'd had a bad day. The company had called for performance improvement. My numbers were slipping. I might lose my job. I looked at the note for a long time. I realized he had probably heard my manager's voice through the thin walls earlier, through the office's cheap laptop speakers. He was always listening. Always ready to be the soft landing. All I had to do was knock. I tore the note in half. Then into quarters. Then into smaller pieces that stuck to my fingers. I threw them away. I didn't go. I lay awake that night, heart racing, rehearsing what leaving this building would look like. New contract. New deposit. New commute. New fears. Because you don't unmeet someone like Sato by changing your address. Once you've felt what it's like to be deeply listened to, everyone else's attention feels thin. I understood, finally, why people kept going back to him, like cats to a warm spot. Even when they knew it might not be healthy. Being known is addictive. I moved out in spring. Got a new job in a different city. Told people it was for career growth. Told myself it was for sunlight. Didn't tell anyone it was also because of a notebook in 301. On my last day, as I carried the final box to the car, Sato stood by the entrance. He didn't help this time. He just watched. "You're going," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," I said. "Found something better." "Good," he said. "This place is too small for you." He stepped closer. "May I say something that might sound selfish?" he asked. I tensed. "What?" I said. "I'll miss our talks," he said simply. "You were interesting. Not kind. Not good. Interesting. And I'm glad you read the notebook," he added, lower. "Most people wouldn't have. They'd have floated along. You didn't." He smiled. "A tiny part of me is tempted to be offended," he said. "That you're leaving. That you've decided I'm dangerous. But a larger part is relieved. It means I didn't break you as badly as I could have." He said it like a joke. I didn't laugh. "Take care, Sato-san," I said. "You too, Haru," he replied. "And, remember." "Remember what?" I asked. "Be careful who listens," he said. "Some people hear you so well that you never notice when your voice starts to sound like theirs." He stepped back. "Don't let anyone else get that deep unless you're sure they know how to leave you alone," he added. I drove away. In the rearview mirror, he grew smaller. Then vanished. That should be the end. But human horror stories rarely have clean endings. 5 months later, a news article popped up on my feed. I wasn't searching for it. The algorithm chose it. "Local man praised for preventing suicide in apartment block," the headline read. A blurry photo showed a familiar building. Building 3. In the picture, paramedics wheeled out a young man on a stretcher. His face was obscured. Next to them, speaking to a police officer, was Sato. The article quoted him. "I just listened," he said. "He said he was tired. I stayed with him until the ambulance came. Anyone would have done the same." The last line. "Neighbors describe Mr. Sato as a kind man who always helps others." I stared at the screen for a long time. Somewhere, in his new notebook, he had probably written, 402 new tenant, risk level, high. Outcome, attempted exit. Survived. Evaluation, intervention effective. Good return. Maybe he didn't push the boy. Maybe he genuinely saved him. Maybe he had caused just enough pressure, just enough attention, that the boy's crisis turned into a performance of a crisis, because it was the only way to feel Sato's full focus. The horror isn't that he wanted anyone to die. The horror is that he needed them to almost. So he could prove, to himself, to an invisible court, that he was necessary. That he existed. Sometimes I imagine what would have happened if I had stayed. If I had let my job grind me down. If, at 3 a.m. on some winter night, I had knocked on his door with trembling hands and said, "I don't want to be here anymore." Would he have held me together? Or would he have sat quietly at the table, listening, storing each word under hooks, noting my risk level, feeling that sharp internal satisfaction of being the only one in the building who knew just how close I was to the edge? And if I had finally stepped off, would he have written outcome, inevitable in neat, even strokes? I've started keeping a notebook of my own. Not of people. Of rules. The first one is Sato's, rewritten in my words. 1. Be careful who listens to you. Monsters with claws are rare. Monsters with warm tea and good questions are not. The second is mine. 2. When someone insists they're the only one who truly understands you, remember they might just be the only one taking notes.